Hello, Cosmos. How are you today? Can everyone hear me clearly on this microphone? Good. Okay, now I'm just going to do a quick test. I'm going to walk away, and you should still be able to hear me clearly wherever I go. So just wait for me to say something, and then I will ask you a question. So here I go. Okay, now I'm somewhere else. Can you hear me nice and clearly, Sasha? Like this morning? Let's see if you can hear me. Doesn't sound. Okay. Ooh, sorry. Just a second. Can you hear me clearly, Sasha? Whoops. Let me just adjust crystal clear. Hold on. The audio has to be adjusted. Okay. Just a second. So I'm going to just do a little test because I've got a microphone back with a good microphone today. So as I walk away and I go some distance, is it still crystal clear, Sasha? Still good? Let's see. Great. So that means this is working. So now we can get some movement. And so it should be working just like this morning. And then we have the microphones here. And that will be, let's see. So that's good. So that would be here. A couple of microphones as well. So leave those there for now. Good. So I think things are going to be okay. And let's just see everybody. I'm still getting things technically set up here. So just a moment. We'll bring that back. Very good. We have our notes. So I will just go over and begin to make some notes while I babble on here. But I know what we need. Will that work? Let's just see. Will I be able to get that? Yes, I can. Okay, good. So that's working. So then the notes are good. All right. So right now I'm standing at the smart board. And Sasha, you should still be able to hear me really clearly, right? Yes? Let's see. Uh, it's a little choppy, but it's still clear. You can hear me? Or it might be your internet. Yeah, but it doesn't sound like I'm far away, right, Sasha? It sounds like I'm at the podium, more or less. Still, as I speak, it's good. Okay, hi guys. Okay. All right. So let me just get this working here for everybody. It's more clear. Oh, it's more clear at the podium. Like a lot more clear at the podium. Okay. This is what's going on. This is supposed to work today. Okay. So now when I'm back at the podium, Sasha, is it a lot more clear here? Significantly. Okay. Something's not working then with this. That concerns me. So I'm going to put this aside for now then. Okay? Yeah, that's not quite working. I'm going to have to stay at the podium like this and make sure because I'm concerned about that, about everything. Yeah, okay. But now we're good, right? You see me at the podium. I'm back here. So, okay, thanks. All right, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stay here. And no, what I need to do is do this. First, we build it like this. We go to Toria, then we go to here, then we go to here, then we go back to here. And then we have our layout. and that is good. We have our notes, but that is going to be changed. That was the global leader class this morning. So we're going to start momentarily, but I will do that. At least I can prepare this. This that should come up. Okay, nice. So let's get this finished, and uh, we'll have somebody do it. So I do it. And over there. So we're set. Oh, are we still okay up there? Oh yeah, that's needs to be refreshed on YouTube, just so I get it. Yeah, we don't want to worry about that too much. Nice. I don't want to lose that. Great. Okay, I think we can begin with everything, and I'll leave the doors open for now. But welcome everyone to Humanity's Destiny. Come on in for our second half of the semester. Welcome back, everyone. And what I'd like to do is, before we get going, just to make sure that I have all the housekeeping in place. First, in the Cosmos, for those of you there, could you please put your full names in the Cosmos so I can check for attendance and everything else? So just write your full name right now, and I want to make sure you can hear me. Ooh, let's see. I'm wondering if you can't hear me. Let's see. Sasha, can you hear me? You should be able to. Okay, good. So go ahead and put your full name in the live chat. The same with, is it Rudra? Rudra? Full name, Sneha, and Kruti, please, for attendance. And for all of you here, let's see, we need to get a scribe going for the class today. So let's see, who is it going to be? Who's going to be taking notes for full participation marks? Somebody has to. I guess it's going to be Kiki again. So Kiki, please go grab the pen and please write down Humanity's Destiny. And today's date is October the 29th. On board. And could all of you here who are in person right now, gentlemen at the back, please go put your names on the board for attendance, and we'll get that started. And perhaps to help us focus a little bit, I will close the doors. So we're still in the onboard section of the class. Excellent. We're just getting things straightened out. Here, by the way, is a nice little pumpkin. Somebody has put on the podium for everybody a nice, big, fat pumpkin. No, it's a little pumpkin. But there you go. Halloween, of course, is in 2 days. And it may be that, in fact, it will be, I think, that Friday night is going to be the night when the Blue Jays return to Toronto for the 6th game. Woo. Wow. Could be an amazing Friday in Toronto. If the Blue Jays are playing again tonight,
somebody, of course, is going to win and will go up 3-2. And then they'll be back in Toronto on Friday for the 6th game. Wow. Wouldn't that be something if the Blue Jays win again tonight and then they come back up 3-2 Friday in Toronto at the Rogers Stadium and they win the World Series there? Get ready, everybody. We shall see. But we won't talk too much about the Blue Jays. We did this morning Global Leader, but this is a different class. And so it's great to see all of you for our beginning of the second half of the semester. And what I'd like to do today is I am going to talk momentarily about history and the lessons of history for our future. That is going to be the central topic of today's class, but there are other things that we need to do as well. But history's lessons, there are important lessons that I need to help you to understand about where we've been in terms of our future. And it's something I love to talk about because I teach history here, human history. I'm just going to bring the blinds down a little bit so that just bring the blinds down so we can focus a little bit more, but not completely because it's so nice up there. Great. I hope you're not too sick, Daniel, but thank you for staying home. Oh, look who is coming. Yes, our is it Jacob or Josh? Jacob? Is it? No, it's the Noah. It's the Noah whose mind we like to have in this class, even though he's not officially a student. We get the pleasure of having his brain in this class, which is great. Nice to see you, Noah. So listen, I need to talk to you about the second half of the semester a little bit before we start on history's lessons today. And before I do that, does anybody have any questions? Anything they'd like to bring to the class's attention? Make sure you sign your name up there. Anything you want to address? I'm looking into the cosmos right now. I was hoping that we would have all the screens back there working today and everything, but it's just, we're still working with tech support right now to get things up and running properly, but that's okay. We can still have a good content-driven class. The tech may not be so sophisticated. Sasha is asking, when do we pick our courses for next semester? I'm not sure, but if you see, Sasha, Short History of the World offered to you, you may want to take it. That's another one of my courses. Of course, you're in Global Leader in the morning, and you've got Humanity's Destiny. So Short History of the World may be offered, but you may get today quite a bit of it because I'm going to be telling you a lot about history and about what we can learn from history in terms of our future. So first, though, I need to talk about weeks 8 to 14. So let's just make sure everybody can hear me clearly. Daniel, you can hear me nice and clearly and see me clearly here because this is critical information. And I would like to get Sasha back on that board to make a slide. I need to put some notes up. So at some point, finish up here, or not Sasha, Kiki. Kiki, when you have a moment, please go back and could you make a new slide? Thank you. And call it weeks 8 to 14. And I'm going to go through this with you as I did this morning with my Global Leader class because my Wednesday classes have the same deadlines, but it's slightly different. So first, I want to tell you that the second half of the semester is going to be a little more challenging than the first half in terms of workload. So please make sure you understand what's coming, and I'm going to go through this with you. But essentially, you're going to have 2 assignments to do in this half of the semester, as well as all of your discussion posts. So I want to give you the due dates for those 2 assignments because they are so important And the second assignment is going to be due on Thursday, November the 13th. Thursday, November the 13th. And that is going to be now 1,000 words that you're going to be writing. And there's going to be details given to you more specifically than the first assignment. And then the really big assignment for the semester is going to be due on, let me just get my glasses again, Thursday, December the 4th. So these are really two big important dates that you need to keep in mind for Humanities Destiny. This second half of the semester, November the 13th and December the 4th. And that will be combined 30% for your final assignment and 20% for your second assignment. So you have 50% of your final grade still to come based on those two assignments. Plus, there will be 6 discussion posts. Assignment 3. Yeah, assignment 3. And that's the final assignment. And so you've got quite a bit ahead. And nothing is going to change for you in terms of what the assignments will be actually asking you to do. They're all either writing, or you're going to be doing a video, or you'll be doing a presentation in class. There's no quiz, no test. It's just more of the same, but deeper. More words, more opportunity to go deeper into your reflections. So those are really important, and there will be assignment sheets posted for them. Your 7th discussion post will be just like your 7th discussion post for the post just before the break. I gave that to you. Everybody got 2.5%, 5 out of 5, if you noticed in your midterm. The same with the 7th discussion post in this part of the semester. That will be given to you as well. So there's 6 discussion posts and 2 assignments, not 1, this part of the semester. So that's important to remember. And the assignments are significantly, particularly the final assignment, longer and more detailed. So I want you to be ready for that. And I have had students with their final assignments in this class do some outstanding work, even been won some awards at university, and have even helped students get into good programs at university, videos that they did. You will have a chance in your final assignment to present your ideas based on the assignment sheet in whatever medium you like. Whether it's written, whether it's a video, whether you stand up and do a presentation, whether you draw something and present it, it's very creative. I give you that chance to use any medium you want, as long as the content is what I'm looking for, okay? So the final class of the semester, I should probably put there as well, Kiki, which is the 10th of December, will be given for presentations, if there are any students who would like to do presentations in this class. There will be no teamwork or pair work for those final assignments. It's all individual. But I thought I would just make sure you're clear on what's coming, because it's really important. Kiki's got that down in the notes as well. Is there anything you'd like to address around what's coming? Anything in the cosmos? Let me just check and see, because one of the things that I would like to do today, before we actually get going with the main content today, which is history's lessons, and that is, I want to talk about your first assignments and have maybe one of you to come up and read out loud your first assignment from the podium. And I have some names written down here. Let me just check the heat. I don't know if I felt some air conditioning, but we're good. Okay, so let me just see who's in the class in terms of the assignments that could be read out loud as a way of reviewing. Well, I'm going to scratch Kiki from the list because she tends to appear on most things in this class. And I was expecting that she would write something really good, and she did. So way to go. Okay. Zaina, is Zaina in the class? Zaina Navid? Are you out there in another solar system? Yep, she's an asynchronous student. Excellent, Zaina, as you know. And let's just see, because I know there's one or two I can see right now who are in the class, not Kiki, who are on the list. But let's just see who else is here. Oh, Rudra, or is it Rudra Patel? Hello. Is it Rudra or Rudra? Are you? Let's see if you're present. Hi, Rudra. Can you?
So,
Oh, you know what? We may have an issue with the speaker today, which means Rudra. Could you give me the correct pronunciation in the live chat? Is it a long U like Rudra, or is it a short like Rudra? What is it? Just put like a U in the live chat and then put a little dash over it. That would indicate, well, I don't know if you can do that. Rudra. Is it Rudra? Go ahead and say yes. And if it isn't, say no. Rudra. It's short like Rudra. Okay, Rudra. If the speaker were working properly, I would have you read out loud what you wrote. Good work on your first assignment. Okay, so we'll scratch Rudra. I don't see Kusam in here. I don't see Zubira. I don't see Sejal, but I see Harris. I see Harris. I see Harris. Now, Harris, could you do us a favor and open your laptop and go find your first assignment, because it was pretty well done. And maybe you could come up and read it out loud. Are you okay to come up to the podium and read it to us? Or would you like me to read it, or are you sure? Because I always love it when students come up and read. Yeah, okay. So then can you do me a favor and find it on your computer? That will be easier. That way I don't have to go into the inbox. It gets kind of complicated. I do think that when you start to actually engage with the content in this class in the way that you do with the discussion posts and the assignments, that this is the most important part of the class, because it's where I see you really thinking through the big stuff, what we're covering in the class. So that's why I like to showcase the work and talk about the students' work and make sure that ultimately I see evidence of learning. That's what I'm always looking for when I grade what you do is learning. And as you know, I'm also trying to detect whether I think the student is sort of relying too much on Chat GPT or a machine or whatever, and trying to determine how to handle that with the student. But when I see work that is well written and is covering the big ideas and is doing what I think it should be doing, then I like to feature that student in the class. So it's Harris, right? Harris wrote something that I think is worth reading, and we're going to get to that in a moment. And let me just see if there's anything else here on the lesson plan. Probably what we should do, Kiki, is we'll just keep the notes going, but make a new, just under final class, a new heading, and call it Harris. It's Harris, Haris, or am I pronouncing it correctly? Harris, Haris, Noor, Noor. Harris Noor's first assignment. Okay, great. So why don't you put it right here? Great. Excellent. And yeah, you can maybe come stand here with me. So, and if in case I read something that is not correct. So Harris is going to be with me here, everybody. He's just standing off a little bit. And Sasha, can you see Harris? Okay. Let's see what's on the YouTube. Okay, well, you can see his elbow. That's good enough. We know he's here. You sure you don't want to read it?
No, I'm good.
Okay, you're good? Okay, so I'm going to read it here. Assignment number 1, Harris Noor. My hope for our future is that we found it on trust. Now, I'm not going to say anything about the writing mechanics. It's generally very good. Okay, so I'm not going to take any issue with any of that. I just want to stick to the content now. There was some good content here. Okay, so my hope for our future is that we found it on trust. Well, no, it's okay. During the class, we've been debating the strike, and we have done that in the global classroom in the online classes. Nothing flows without trust. No campuses, no supply chains, no teams. As soon as the breakage of trust happens, like you've missed a verb, but it's okay. As soon as the breakage of trust takes place, or as soon as there is a breakage of trust, things slow down like traffic, decision making, progress. Let me tell you something. It's rough, and this tells me it's real. This is a student I know. His English could improve, but most students, or a lot with that, they'll go to ChatGPT, they'll go to the machine, and it'll come in as a flawless thing. And then I'll go, obviously, this student is cheating because I know. I've seen him in class. This student is real. So that is my very first wish, that we deliberately restore our trust. Leaders who talk openly about the constraints, and the rest of us who are curious instead of cynical. From there, I hope we can dream bigger, even than globalization. Globalization is the worldwide market where things get manufactured. Planetization. He was listening. He's got planetization is the next level. It is observing one common system, climate, health, data, and culture, the place where the problems and the solutions flow across boundaries. It was the Earthrise photograph we discussed. It made me click on that one. It is not possible to look at one blue globe suspended in the middle of nowhere and still say these are not our problems. Planetization also changes the way we conceptualize success, not just cheaper products, but cleaner breath, fewer disasters, and more common resilience. Well, this is excellent. Let me just read this again. This is a student who's getting planetization, is listening and reflecting. And maybe you can read this. I'll read for planetization also changes the way we conceptualize success, not just cheaper products, but cleaner breath, fewer disasters, and more common resilience. Can you try reading that? Can you?
Reading what?
Planetization. Can you
Planetization also changes the way concepts solutions.
Sex?
Success, not just cheaper products, but cleaner breath, fewer disasters, and more common
resilience. Way to go. Yeah. Another is knowledge. Knowledge is our destiny was more than a slogan. It was a sense of direction. This guy's listening. I mean, he really, when I read something like this and I go, he really is engaging with the content. And that's a critical thing in what you write. Are you integrating the course content into what you write? That's how I assess you. I'm not putting a number on it and saying, there, he answered true, false, or multiple choice. This is a much deeper way of assessing. Is the student thinking about these things? He is. Most human beings want human connection. Many human beings also seek money because we have to live. But what actually accelerates is learning together. I saw that in our room with our group activity, people recognizing classmates by name. I hope we learn like open source. Everyone contributes, everyone benefits, and credit is taken. That's something I saw in our group activity. Technology is between my hopes and fears. We have been discussing the human-machine problem. And it's a problem. It's also an opportunity, but it's an issue. We've been discussing the human-machine problem and the prediction that by around 2029, AI could be smarter than human intelligence. If that certain date arrives or not, the urgency is real. you are getting this and understanding this. And you, by saying these things, give me hope in the next generation. There is urgency, but it's not a nightmare. You're not entering a world that is dystopian and is going to fall apart. But there's urgency for all of you, your generation, to understand this predicament. Otherwise, it will be a machine world that will be very cold and very dead. I hope we design with human values center stage, develop systems that cause less harm, show their boundaries, and beg to be governed. Energy consumption is part of that. Generative AI and servers are no joke. They use energy, that's for sure. You know how much water these AI data processing centers use now to cool things down? A ton of water. Science is still rocket fuel for hope, still. And then we get into a bit of note-taking, losing the scent, re-watching the incident. We don't have re in an official. That's more note-taking language, re, okay? But anyways, inside the Large Hadron Collider reminded me that curiosity can be painstaking and collective. It's tens of thousands collaborating on asking hard questions, chronicling every step and checking one another. I want that culture everywhere. In budget negotiations, in metropolitan areas, in education policy, even group work. Breathe deep enough to gather facts, then act with confidence because we have agreement on the basics deep down. It's a little long, but I'm going to read all of it. He went over the word limit, but I accept that for this one because the content was very good. I'm going to finish because it's really well explored. You're engaging in the big ideas. We also explored de-extinction and gene engineering. That was a giant lesson for me. Just because we can doesn't mean we should, at least without wide-ranging discussion. I hope we make public reasoning the rule, frame trade-offs in plain language, listen to people who live with consequences and correct, move fast and break things broke. Too much already? Let's move cautiously and keep what works, because keeping is also moving forward. Closer to everyday life, I want that we shift from positional conflict towards interest-based problem solving. In the strike negotiations, I heard fury, but I also heard respect. We need stability and enough revenue to keep campuses healthy. When we name the actual interest on both sides, solutions emerge. That's right. When we name things and talk about things, we can actually begin to solve them. The worst thing is when we don't say anything, they just fester in our mind and get worse. We got to get them out. We got to talk. Rhetoric comes into play again too, even small increments, naming exactly as we practice the transportation sentence can diffuse disputes before they explode. In accessibility and equity, they must be in the design. Broadband, transportation that arrives, spaces that can be navigated, education that meets students where they live. These are not afterthoughts. I love that. These are not afterthoughts. He's trying to tell us these are important things, you know. They're the base level of a just future. Determination is better than hype. Amen. And manifestation helps when underwritten by actual work and actual data. So what am I doing in all this? Make it small and regular. I can better code with comments so others can learn. I can fact check sources before I pass them on. I can plug energy consumption when I design something and fix inefficiency instead of leaving it alone. Man of action, get it done. Repair cafe, fix it. If it's broke, don't blame somebody else. Go ahead and fix it yourself. In collaboration, I can choose what I can get instead of here's what I have. If I have any headline on hope, it is this one: curiosity over conviction, upkeep over frenzy, and communion over solitude. No perfect future is raining down from the heavens. A decent one is built one brick at a time. Look at this. There's Harris. Way to go. Way to go. Anything else you want to add to this?
No, that's it.
Well done. Beautiful. Think I care whether, the words are not always right? And no, I could, but I'm not going to, because he is authentic. Maybe he got some help from Grammarly. It's okay for a few words here and there, but boy, that's what's in his mind. And that's the kind of thinking that I really want to encourage in the class going forwards, is what we're doing in this class are not afterthoughts. As Harris said, the urgency is real. This is a time in history when things are really changing, and you need to be smart. And if you feel you aren't and you need help, please get the help. Come to me so that I can help you get as smart as you possibly can be for a world that is really complicated. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say to what Harris wrote, or any comments before we move on? And I'm going to actually do something a little different before I start the lecture, just to get everybody moving a bit, okay? So unless I don't see any questions, here's what I would like you all to do before I begin the lecture in about 10 minutes. For those of you in the cosmos, nice comment from Sasha there for you, Harris. She's written so amazing. She was listening, and others. All of you are going to do this, but I'm just going to direct this to the cosmos for the moment. I would like you to think for a moment, all of you individually, what do you think are the three most important forces in history that are going to dictate our future on this planet? I just want you to think very broadly in the cosmos, and then start putting your answer to that question into the live chat. What are the three most important forces in history? And I'll just write this and try to do a million things at once. Okay, for the cosmos, please identify three of the largest forces in history, and why you think they matter for our future on planet Earth. Okay? I may have spelled things incorrectly, and this is the same that I want all of you to do, but I would like you to do it in threes. Okay? So could you, it's Ibrahim. Yeah, Ibrahim, can you join Kiki and Noah here? Could the three of you become a team? Could the six of you split into groups of three right now? Okay, so maybe three of you on that and three of you over here. Okay, and then what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to, just a second, give you a little inspiration. There's a nice little history image. I'd like you to think about, just for about 10 minutes or less, you reflect back on all that you know and all that you've been taught and all that you think is important about history. It's a very big question, I know. And then you establish in your discussion, what do you think are the three most important forces? Forces. Noah.
I come from a physics background ever so slightly. So
Yes.
I'm thinking differently for forces. I mean,
Oh, okay, good. I'm glad you asked for a definition, because, of course, there are forces in physics which would be as basic as the force of gravity or thermonuclear energy or any other force. I mean, when we think about what has happened on this planet in terms of events and wars, civilizations, societies, important ideas, important developments. There are kind of underneath this all, they're like the undercurrents, Noah. They're these forces. They're like big themes. They're like a force would be, for example, if I were to give you one force, we might say the force of human curiosity. As Harris has said, it's been there from the beginning, when our brain size started to grow and we became human and we began to essentially colonize this planet. But there are big forces. Another force might be, if we looked at the force of religion, the force of spirituality, the force of trying to understand our purpose on the planet. Maybe there's the force of war. You might think that's a very important force. The force of family, the force of education. These are things that have been there for a long, long time. And whether you look at, let's say, early Mesopotamian or Egyptian or Greek or Roman or indigenous societies, or whether you look at the world today, you're still going to see the same thing. People wanted to get smarter. People wanted to explore. People wanted to pray. People were fighting. These are forces. What I'm going to try and help you understand today in history's lessons is there are some critical forces when you look back at what's been happening, and those tell us something about what's going to happen in the future. If those forces have been there for that long, they very likely will be there going forwards.
So kind of just something that's embedded in human nature and will continue to stay.
Essentially, it's embedded in human society. It seems to be embedded in human society or human nature. Seems to be. And it's been there for so long. I'm sure it's going to be there in 100 years or 200 years, but it may look different, but it's still going to be there. What are some of those forces that you think are really important to establish? And then I'm going to give a little lecture on what I think are some very critical ones for you to understand. And I will finally say, in terms of helping you to understand forces, I'm asking you to think about history in a very new way. I'm asking you to think of history in a planet-wide perspective. It's as if you were standing on the moon, which we humans have done. And you're looking back at the planet and you're wondering, what's been happening there during the planet's existence in terms of forces that's so important that it's going to be there for a long, long time. You're not thinking about your own culture per se, a war per se, a particular historical event. You're thinking of the planet-wide perspective now. This is new. You're thinking of history in terms of the planetary story, not the story of Canada or the story of the 20th century or the story of Rome or Greece, but bigger. Is that making sense? Great. Okay. Those are the forces I'm looking for, because we now live in a planetary world. It's planetization. Okay. So go ahead, take a few minutes, and then I'm going to check in with you, and then we're going to start the lecture. Okay. So I'm going to give you all another 10 minutes to identify. For the cosmos, please identify 3 of the largest forces in history and why you think they matter for us. Yeah, exactly. And when I say cosmos to all of you, I mean you are the cosmos, okay? In other words, you don't have to think about astronomy here. I'm not asking you to think about the cosmos. I'm just addressing you, all of you, as the cosmos, okay? Just go ahead and brainstorm. Yeah. Okay, so Sasha, do you think that war is a force that will always be with us? That it's such an important force? That's the kind of thing I'm asking you to think of. These sort of, they're embedded. They seem to be embedded in our story. These are the big forces that you need to think about. We can't understand our future unless we understand these forces. Great. Okay. So let me just check over here. Let's see. Are you okay? You've got a group. Just want to make sure. I see a group not being a group. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't, if you want some feedback, some actual feedback, which I'm not giving individually, so many students, but I can, if you give me a second, I'll give you the feedback right now. just check with everybody else, and I can talk to you, because, I have, marked this up for 80 out of 10. Yeah, and there's a reason. Yes. It might have been word count, okay, so, no, the word count's coming in, it's not, because, we need 771. So, word count, okay. Because only the brand, because I need you a little bit for yeah, that was the only reason. With you. Which would be, well, what was your midterm? You always see midterms. You check your midterms. Make sure that I see that.
I can't even tell you what shape it is. I do 72 cents suspension. Yeah. Actually, it's I guess this is
Okay, so, yeah, it's a little bit of grammar, and that's why, so it starts here, so I'm just protesting for money. Yeah, because you have two separate governments. You're just protesting for money, we're protesting for respect. So, when you have two separate thoughts, two independent thoughts, you have to separate something. And this is definitely comma or period. This is what we call a run-on sentence. It's run-on. So that's what I I've seen with this as I was reading this was that there's some writing. That's the first thing. As I go through it, I probably will find more mechanical issues, more writing. That's the first one. I confuse it. I don't push the problem. So you understand what I'm saying?
not on purpose, Justin was just smart. Yeah. That's one of the reasons I'm attracted to him. He's very smart. Also, just like if you I would already. Wow.
I've seen one thing and I would have started to mark it down because of that, but I'm not seeing all of it. I thought I would.
Okay.
I'll take that. Yep. Actually, it's not that because I'm not seeing as many mistakes when I make mistakes as I thought. I've seen that one. Okay, and just let me write this down. And the first name again, it's Masood. Yeah, Masood. Okay. Let me just write this down. Masood, isn't it? Okay. Masood, 9. Okay. 9 out of 10 for A1. Yep.
My midterm is a 95 in the class.
Good, but good content. Okay. That's, I was not at issue with the content. It's just the writing mechanics. Yeah.
95 in the class. I just
Yeah.
put it on 45 pounds.
I wouldn't worry about that right now because you have more assignments, 2 more coming, and the discussion posts. So you just keep doing what you're doing, and your final mark.
Because that's how we do it again.
Yeah, yeah. Well, 9 out of 10, boosted to a 10. I'm gonna leave it at 9.
9.5.
Yeah, final grade is what matters, Harris, in the course. Okay, not these individual, but I understand what you're saying. But it's important that you just keep thinking. If you want to get that 10 out of 10 or more on the next assignment, work on your writing mechanics too, like Masoom, a little bit. Okay. Yeah. I would recommend if you really want to, if you're writing your final assignment and not doing a video, let's say, but you're going to write the big one, the assignment 3, and you're going to use it as written, and you want it to be written better, I would suggest you go to Sal's and see a tutor once or twice just to help you with some writing mechanics. That's it. Okay. Mostly for Harris, not for you. Okay. I let Harris for that. Okay. So let's do this together, and then we can move on, because I really want to make sure I tell you about some big forces today. And so let's see what's in the live chat. Okay, so Sasha, Eric, yes, it does. So I would say, Sasha, for now, put the force of war and the force of religion. Just write that down, war and religion. Those are 2 very big forces in the human story. As Noah described it, well, they seem to be embedded in human nature or human society. War, religion. Okay, I will let the cosmos continue to think that through, but let's come in person and let's see what you all have. I'll start with the group over here. And before you go, where did Kiki go? She's gone. Oh, for a second. Can you do the notes? No? Do you know how to? Yeah, okay. Can you just make a new slide and write down the great forces in the human story? The great forces in the human story on planet Earth.
Great forces in the human story on planet Earth.
Yep. The great forces in the human story. Noah's got you covered. I put him over there. So in a moment, I'm going to give a little lecture on this, but I'd like to ask, as we start with this, history's lessons for humanity's destiny is about understanding what are these great forces. So let's just see over here. What did you come up with? Anything? Go ahead. Yeah. What'd you come up with? Give all 3, and then we'll decide.
First one we came up was war.
War. Okay. Let's put war down there.
Then the second one we came up with was probably a close opposite for where, like love or protecting people.
How about we call it benevolence?
That's a good one.
Benevolence. Very important. Benevolence. I'm going to help fill this out for you once we just get these smaller details there. Benevolence. Okay. What's the third one?
Then we came up with roads or connections between places.
Very good. We'll call that, for now, we will call it human connection. Nice. Human connection, that we reach out and we want to be with others. We want to see who they are. We want to build that ship, create that train, build that car, build that road, and connect with others. We want to connect in other ways too, deeply, emotionally. Human connection. Excellent. Put that there for now. We're just brainstorming a few, but these are definitely forces. The force of war, the force of benevolence, the force of connection. Over here, First, is it Masum or who else? The three of you want to try? What do you think? One force that when you look back and you think about history, yes. Religion? Absolutely. Okay. For those of you who are real science, aficionados or love science, which I do, and you should, because science is such a great force. Religion actually predates science in the human story. Science is a huge force, but we'll leave this for now. Okay. So religion there, excellent. Okay, and then over here, racism. Very good. Let's put racism there, and I'm going to give you another force that you can put right beside that. It's called hierarchy. Okay, I will spell it for you. Hierarchy. Hierarchy. And it's a force in human civilization in which we put people at certain levels of superiority or inferiority or competence or even power. Hierarchy. And it's a very interesting force that we have to deal with. It often ends badly when we deal with this hierarchical force. Okay, excellent. Hierarchy. And then over here, would you like to add to it?
I think the points I came up with were a little more broad.
Yes. And they should be. At this point, we're thinking about this big story of the human being on planet Earth.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Life, death, change. They've been constant throughout history, even predating human history.
Well, I have a very interesting point to add to that. I'm going to extract death. Could you put that? The force of death. Ibrahim.
Living standards.
Living standards. What would be in living standards meaning comfort? The force of the desire for comfort? The desire for being safe from disaster? Living standards. When you talk about living standards, meaning that we want to improve.
That we just want something better.
Self-improvement. Self-improvement. The force of self-improvement. Always wanting something better. Yes.
Well, I have to say living standards.
Yeah.
Because communism was popular in Russia. Why was it? Because people had poor living standards.
Yes.
The French Revolution. Why did people revolt? Because they had bad living standards.
That's right. That's right. But that will relate back to other forces, but we will call that self-improvement. Okay. Well, I'm going to leave that there for now because I want to come back and talk about some bigger forces. And these are forces in which those forces you could kind of put under, and my forces are like an umbrella for all of this. But we can return to these and talk a little more in detail, but I want to first give you some bigger forces. Noah?
I just wanted to expand on Kiki's death thing because I think that death has given humanity a lot of opportunity, which is already unexplored. Like we have war, benevolence, connections, religion, and we could honestly all call that up on death because the way I see religion, it gives purpose to life after death.
Yes.
If we wanted to die, I don't think we would have ever given up.
Well, Noah is saying something very, very interesting that I just want to touch on because there's something that he's identifying that you need to know in terms of a very important force that's there, but I'm going to just give you a little bit of history now, and then I'm going to start talking in the lecture, okay? But can you stay there for the moment, just both of you, because we may make notes, but I'm going to talk a little bit, okay? And then we may put notes together. But I'm going to start the lecture by kind of building on what Noah said. About 200,000 years ago on planet Earth, if we think of the story in this planetary way, something quite remarkable happened with the creatures who were living on this planet. 200,000 years ago may seem like a long time. for all of you. You may not be used to thinking about history in these terms. But when we start to talk about the whole planet, we start to talk about planetary or even cosmic time. There's a bigger story that's been happening, and it's the totality of which you all are a part. There's a bigger totality here that we are learning about. 200,000 years ago, which is really just yesterday in cosmic time, the planet is 4.5 billion years old. If we thought of Earth as, there's Earth, okay, planet, 4.5 billion years. Without getting into too much detail about all the other creatures that have been here, humans basically arrived yesterday on planet Earth. 200,000 years ago, according to our best world historians, we were not speaking yet. We did not have language yet. But there was a thing called Homo sapien, or Homo sapien sapien. Essentially, it was the human being in all that we are right now, but without the culture. The same brain size, the same limbs, the same height, the same anatomy. We were essentially human in the way we are now, but we didn't have culture yet. We didn't have society. We didn't have language, but we did something. We early humans, as we were evolving on this planet, and I'm going to get to evolution very shortly, because that's the number one force that I want to talk about today, is evolution and change. We humans saw around us all these other creatures, and we saw ourselves, and they weren't living here forever. They died. No other creature on this planet ever has had the consciousness of his mortality the way we humans do. You can look at your dog or your cat, a squirrel, you can look at a whale, a dolphin, an elephant, any of the most sophisticated animals on this planet, and you will see a kind of understanding of death, but not like humans. When we humans began to open ourselves up to and think about, why do we die? This started to lay the foundation for a way of thinking about ourselves on this planet that would, in some ways, accelerate our intellectual development. When you ask yourselves, why am I not here forever? Why am I going to die? You start to wonder, what is my purpose here on this planet? What am I doing here if I'm going to not be here? Is this making sense? So Noah was very right in starting to kind of zero in on this idea of death and as Kiki said, life, death, and change. Our understanding of death and our awareness of it has given us a sense of purpose, and our religions have often grown out of that idea of what should we do, how should our life have meaning if we are going to die, and if we do die, what's going to happen afterwards when we are in this other world. And so this is a very important force in the human story. It's the force of purpose. What am I here to do? And think about it. You do this quite often in the course of a day. Probably if you have time to think, you will go, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? Well, you don't think about it in terms of, got to stay on the podium, I'm going to die, because you probably don't really care about it that much at this point in your life because you're young. However, as you get older, you're going to be thinking about this a lot, and it's going to give your life an even greater sense of urgency. So this sense of purpose that comes from our awareness that we have a short amount of time on this planet is deeply embedded in the human story on planet Earth, which means it's not going to go away. It's not going to go away. It's going to be here in the future. And the interesting thing to think about, and I'll conclude this little part, and that is 500 years from now, here's the dilemma. There are futurists today, visionaries. One in particular, his name is Yuval Noah Harari. I may have mentioned him to you before. He's a really outstanding world historian. And he's written a new book called Homo Deus, which is called A Brief History of Tomorrow. And I've been reading this book. I'm quite interested in what he's saying. He spends probably 40 pages in it at the beginning talking about the fact that humans are reaching a point where they're very likely going to conquer death. Now, I want you to think about this for a moment. I want you to think about this idea. This is huge thinking, but it's a wonderful way to think. If we begin to extend our lifespan to such an extent that we begin to live longer and longer and longer, as we've been doing for the past hundreds of years through medical science, and we get to a point where death is not really what we think it is anymore, it's something we can overcome like a virus, what then becomes our purpose? This is big thinking. This is huge thinking, but I want to show you something. Here is the book, Homo Deus, A Brief History of Tomorrow. This has been a best-selling book. On the Guardian, Manchester Guardian, a great newspaper, they put it as one of their notable books of the year when it was published about 10 years ago. If you think these are crazy ideas, think again. Medical science is evolving rapidly. In your lifetime, what I've just talked about, this is not going to happen. However, when you leave this planet, the world's going to go on. This may be very hard for you to think about because we tend, particularly when we're young, to think only about our life and what we do here. And yes, we pay lip service to what happens on planet Earth, but it's not really in our bones. We don't, who cares? We die, who cares, whatever happens. But things are going to go on this planet after you go. And you need to think about that because those people who carry on after you, they may be connected to you as your children or grandchildren or whatever. So thinking about death in this way is not as crazy as you think. There's some really interesting visionary thinking going on right now among some deep thinkers about the idea of death and what we can do to maybe begin to make it more like a virus. Wow. Imagine just even thinking about that thought that death may be something that may no longer be something we all experience. Seems just so wild. But that's my long way of coming back to what I want to really tell you about, okay? But thank you, Noah and Kiki, for putting your life, death, and change. Life, death, and change. Well, let me start with first, why does history matter? Why should we talk about history when we're talking about our future? Ibrahim?
I think history is the best thing we can go.
Guys, you want to try to keep it down, okay? So let's.
I think history is the best thing of. I think it's the best way of documenting human behavior so we can determine our future.
Because we can look at what we've done and how we've behaved and study that, right? That's part of it. To kind of paraphrase Cicero, one of the great Roman orators, Rome, once upon a time, was a tremendous society in human history that extended all the way around the Mediterranean and all those countries. Now, whether it's France or Greece or Egypt or Spain or Belgium and all of them, they were all part of the Roman Empire, speaking in Latin. And it was a huge, huge empire. And I know a lot about it, and I'm sure a lot of you are fascinated by Rome too. Cicero once said that those who are not interested in history will forever remain children. Something like that. I'm paraphrasing. That if you do not study what has happened, you remain a child. You can't grow. You can't think in a much deeper way. And you become a kind of person who is unable to really engage in the world in a real way. So I'm not going to spend too much time talking to you about the importance of history. I think you all understand why it's important, but I will say one thing. We don't really need to talk about why history is important. The fact is, we all have a desire to know why. History is why. It's in us all. And so we should just respect that and honor that impulse. We don't need to get too, deep about it, but we all want to know why and how. These are big questions, and history will help us to understand that. So when we talk about history's lessons, I want to continue talking about this idea of the planetary story in history, the history of the human being on planet Earth. I'm purposely avoiding talking about the history of particular cultures, the history of particular religions, the history of particular wars, the history of particular inventions or ideas, because there's something bigger going on here, and it's called humanity. When we look at the human story on planet Earth, when we start to understand the force of planetization, when we see that we're on a planet-wide platform now, all of us, we're all human beings sharing this one planet. We know that now very clearly. We have to ask ourselves, what exactly is nature? What exactly is this thing that we're a part of on planet Earth? What is planet Earth? And what is the natural world? And there is one force that we see again and again in the natural world when we start to look at the beginnings, whether it's the Big Bang, 13.7 billion years ago, when we had subatomic particles beginning to clash and forming the first atoms and the first matter. And we start to look at the story of how the planet took shape from these early events going all the way up to 5 billion years ago when the sun was formed, 4.5 billion years ago when Earth took shape, 1 billion years ago when the first multicellular organisms began to appear on planet Earth, 500 million years ago when we start to see the first complex creatures, 250 million years ago when there were dinosaurs, and then 60 million years ago when there was a huge object from outer space that hit the Yucatan Peninsula and led to climate change. You know what we start to see in nature? Here's the force: complexity. Could you please write this down? Number one, complexity. In the history of planet Earth, on which we have grown, everything on this planet has been getting more and more complex. Let me stop for a second. Make sure you understand this. Gentlemen, back there, I want to make sure. Guys, you're focused? Okay. Let me bring this to your present life for a moment. Do you think your life is complicated? Ibrahim, very. Kiki, very. Noah, very. Noah, number one, not very complicated. Complicated? Complicated? Probably most of you would say complicated. And Noah, I think if you think about it in the way that we're about to, you're going to see that your life is more complicated than you realize. A definition of complexity is many different parts that are brought together into one thing. So, for example, my computer. Do you know how many parts exist in this computer? Hundreds and hundreds of different parts. If you go down into a silicon chip and you look at the billions of transistors that are now contained on a single chip, you will see an immensely complex thing that we have created in technology. Well, in the same way, your life is very complex. When you get up in the morning, you're trying to juggle many different things. You want to sleep well or get some sleep. You want to eat a certain way because, you want to be healthy, or maybe not. You want to make sure your phone has been plugged in. And if it's not, well, then you're going to, you can't function. You want to run for the bus, or you get your bicycle and a part on your bicycle isn't working. You take a look at all the different parts in the course of your day in order for your day to go well. You will see you are juggling all day long. Well, complexity is the act of many parts coming together. In nature, we have many particles coming together, subatomic particles coming together. For example, a neutron, a proton, and all of these electrons coming together into what's called an atom. And once you get all these parts coming together into one new thing, that thing becomes more powerful. This computer, if you remove its parts separately, those parts on their own are not as powerful as everything together. The bus you take, the car you drive, the bicycle you ride, you separate the parts are not as powerful as the whole thing together. And so the next force is power. The more complexity you get, the more power you get. Now, this may seem very, very broad. Well, it should, because we're talking about the planet now. We're talking about what's going to happen to our destiny on planet Earth. And we know two things right now. Things are going to continue to get more complex. Your life is going to get more complex because complexity is part of nature. And in that, you're going to get greater power. Two, you're going to be able to do more things. But just like an airplane has how many parts? Hundreds and hundreds. Do you know how fragile that airplane is? A bird flies into it and that airplane may crash. Here's the great contradiction. The more complexity you get, the more fragility you get too. How are you going to juggle that? An astronaut goes up into space. Wow, that space station is so complex. All these parts. But boy, one little thing happens. One cord is pulled out. One thing, and he could die. He could lose his oxygen. Are you ready to deal with that? Complexity and fragility at the same time. You have to be very, very sensitive in how you deal with this growing complexity, but you're getting greater power as a result. That's why we have all these machines that give us so much power. Is this making sense? Well, the next force after complexity and power is something that Kiki had said, but I'm going to give it a bigger meaning. It's called evolution. Now, we have in human society today many different ways of understanding how we humans got here onto this planet and why we're even here. We call that religion, generally speaking. Whether you are a Muslim, a Christian, a Jew, a Hindu, a Buddhist, a Zoroastrian, or you follow an indigenous faith or religion or something, they all have what are called creation myths. Stories of how did we get here? And they all kind of come back to this idea of death and, well, if we die, what should we do? But I'm not going to talk about those things right now, the religions. I'm simply going to say that some of you in this class right now, as you listen to this, may be religious. And that you may believe that the reason we are here on this planet and our purpose and our future have to do with your scriptures. I'm going to tell you something else. I'm going to sidestep that for the moment and say that there is a force in the human story that we know of, and we can thank science for this. Science is the way we learn about what has been really happening in the world with evidence. And science has told us that nothing stands still, that everything changes, that if you look at the human 200,000 years ago and you go back and look at the human 5 million years ago, you're going to see a slightly different creature that is gradually changing over time and adapting to his environment or her environment. We have been evolving. You are evolving right now in your life, whether you realize it or not. You are changing. You are becoming something different than what you were when you were born. You were an embryo. You were in your mother's womb. You aren't anymore. You're much bigger. You're out. You're in this world. You are changing. And so the greatest force that we all must have to deal with as we go forward is evolution. What are we becoming? We will become it. Think about that for a moment. Your religion may tell you that you cannot change. You simply must become aware and open yourself to the power of your God and what your God is telling you to do. Well, I'm afraid to say that when you look at the planet-wide story, the idea of even a single God is a human invention. The great Greeks, the great Romans, even the Egyptians, you go back into ancient history, you will see they were pagan cultures, if you will. They believed in multiple gods. The idea of one God is what we created. You may have a very hard time dealing with that. But when you start to understand that so much is created by humans and so much can evolve, it opens up a future that can be dazzling, weird, strange, and are you ready for it? So I'm going to stop for a moment and just leave you with these thoughts in terms of history's lessons. We have a story that maybe you haven't heard before in terms of this scale of history, the human story. And the three great forces on planet Earth in the human story are complexity. Everything is getting more complex. We humans are gaining greater and greater power and fragility at the same time. And we humans are changing and are going to continue to change. Now I want to stop and just spend 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Can we make another slide? I'm going to really challenge your imaginations. Arya, Daniel, Rudra, online, I'm going to ask you to think. 250 years from now, could you write this down? 250 years from now, what will we humans look like? And then we're going to conclude. I want you to open your mind to this large thing, which is the future. I've given you just a very introductory way of thinking about the future and our destiny, which is we have these forces. Some of them we brainstormed, but I gave you some big ones to help you. Given that things are getting more complex, given that we're getting greater power and to some extent more fragility, and given that things are going to change, what will we look like in 250 years? Anyone want to try? I can go default, but I'll bring in now. If you guys are okay, you're chatting about the Blue Jays. That's probably, I hope, very important. There's a big game tonight. But what's your name, Nick? Is it Zane? Julian, Julian, why don't you come up, okay? Because you wrote something good too. I just want to get your brain for a second, okay? Come on up and join Noah over here. Just stand with Noah over here, okay? And we'll have somebody from over here. Noah, why don't you come up, okay? Since you're a simple person. But not really. You're not so simple. And just stand over there, okay? And yeah, Noah, and take a pen and go the two Noahs and Julian. Give that to Julian. And the three of you, could you just start drawing or writing? What are we going to look like in 250 years? If you can draw it, even better, but okay, let's see. Here is humanity's destiny, 250 years. Okay, so Noah's going to start, and the forces we are looking at are complexity, power, and evolution. Now, raise a hand if you think that in 250 years, all of us here, if we were alive then, will look the same physically. Raise a hand if you think that we're going to basically have the same form, that our arms, our legs, our head, whatever, is all going to be the same. Noah, yes? Yeah? So our biology is not going to change? But we may biologically engineer. We may biologically engineer, as we're doing already with all sorts of prosthetic parts. We already are talking about, implants that Elon Musk is beginning to put into the human brain to guide our thoughts, and experiments are being done with that. So, Noah, are you excluding technology from this? Okay, you can't. You have to include technology in this picture because we are using our machines, so we will have to think about that. Ibrahim. What's that? That's a very good question. As far as we know, we are not facing that kind of cataclysmic natural event. But potentially there could be a war that obliterates a lot of life on this planet. But we'll take it on the assumption right now, Ibrahim, for the sake of this, that we will be here in 250 years, okay? So what else can we add? Let's see, maybe like cyberpunk 2077. Could you explain a little bit to all of us, including me, what is cyberpunk in terms of its view of the human?
Driven future where the entire world around you is just technology. You have like things to enhance your vision, kind of like the meta glasses, the meta
Yes.
in your eyes, stuff in your arms, stuff in your legs, kind of just basically biologically push the human body forward.
Okay, so that probably would mean that given that we are wearing our technology today, whether it's a watch that we've been doing for a long, long time, or increasingly other devices, that we will probably be wearing more technology. We will be wearing more technology on us. It's called, or in us. So the human, when you look at the human, you're going to see a human with more tech on him or in him. Does that concern you, or does that excite you? It concerns you. Why can't that excite you?
It excites me, but I have more of a pessimistic view.
Exactly. Okay. Okay. So let's see what Noah number 1 is writing. Genetically made or adjusted. Yeah.
I forget what it's called. It's like custom babies that people were thinking of.
Yes.
Like theorizing that it could happen.
Well,
Eugenics?
I don't know.
I'm going to give you a piece of information that's going to help you understand something about genetic technology that you may already know, and then we will conclude, because you do need to know this. It is becoming increasingly possible at cheaper and cheaper rates to be able to alter your genes. Let me just explain how this works, okay? Because it's very important. Do all of you know what a genome is? A genome. Genome? Genome? Okay, let me explain for a second. In your bodies, you have billions of cells. And those cells create your bones and your organs and essentially the structure that you have. You have brain cells, you have blood cells, you have bone cells, you have skin cells. Those cells come together and form things. You have billions and billions and billions of them in there. They're so small, we need very powerful microscopes to see. In every cell, in every single cell, you have a genome in it. It's the identical information, slightly altered depending on where that cell is located in your body. But in your genome, that is all your genes. 25,000 approximately genes are in your genome. A dog has the dog genome, the cat genome, there's reptile genomes, there's tree genomes. Every living thing on this planet has its own genome, its own structure of genes. We humans are now able to go into our cells, open up the genome, look at every individual gene lined up in there, and all those genes are what dictate who you are, from how you speak, the color of your eyes, your hair, everything. And if you don't like certain genes, we can remove them. And once you remove a gene, and that person has a child, that child will no longer have that gene. You don't pass that gene on. So imagine this. In all of your families, I know for a fact, but I'm not going to ask you, that there is dysfunction to some extent in every single one of your families. In every single one of our families, there are people who drink, take drugs, beat up other people, abuse others, are mentally struggling, have all sorts of problems. That's the human being. But we all have that. Well, what if you were a parent and you say, well, I hate that gene in my family, but all these alcoholics. Well, I'm going to go get that gene removed so that I know for certain that my child will no longer have that same gene. Would you do it? We can change our insides and we can change what we look like too, increasingly, through our understanding of the human body and through the tools that we have created. You will be faced with some of these choices in your lives, ethically speaking, how you use technology. I'm going to conclude with that thought. Kiki, anything you want to say?
Oh,
I thought I saw somebody wanting to say something. Maybe I'm wrong.
I was going to mention actually something to do with the way we would look in several years. Something that scientists have actually found is that since we no longer need to like climb, our toes are actually starting to shrink. So they are expecting that in about 500 years we won't have toes at all, especially because we're wearing shoes all the time.
And that's consistent with evolution. When we don't use something, eventually it starts to disappear or it becomes something different. That's a beautiful thought, but that's a dangerous thought. Disabilities no longer exist.
That one kind of threw me off too, actually, because I myself have a disability, and something I've been faced with for a lot of my life is, should I have a kid? I will definitely pass that on to my kid. But with the idea.
Gentlemen, listen to what she's saying. She's saying a very important thing about our future, our human destiny. She's just said she has a disability, and she's thinking, she wonders about her children and whether she wants her children to have the same.
I've even actually been told, like, don't have children just because you have a disability, which I think is absurd.
Yeah.
But the idea that, like, I could remove that genetically
that genetic predisposition is pretty powerful, isn't it?
It's powerful, but I would. There's just too many things to consider with it that I'm not sure what I would do in that case. I think there would be a lot of push from eugenicists to completely remove that from my but also I've had to live my whole life figuring out that this is what makes me unique. This is what makes me me.
Absolutely. Your future is filled with some very challenging ethical choices. Please just get smart. Kiki, you're obviously smart and you're going to be thinking about these things and keep on thinking about them. But what a thing that you can think about. Some would say this is so liberating, but then it would mean that maybe you have a very ignorant view of what a disability is. Maybe, it's a bigger discussion. I simply want to conclude by reminding you of that one thought there that we've come to today, that we face complex worlds and complex choices. It's your future. You are going to be dealing with complexity in ever greater scale. You need to be smart. She has a very, very difficult choice to make. She needs to be smart. That is the future right there. Okay, everybody, you have discussion post 8 to do for next week. I'm here if you would like to talk to me about anything. Noah, thank you for your contributions. They're excellent. And most of all, Kiki, for telling us this and helping us to personalize such an important topic. It's much appreciated. Okay, everybody, have a great week. And let's hope that the Blue Jays clobber the hell out of the Dodgers tonight. And then they'll be back with the World Series on Friday night.
Is it all right if I leave the pencils right on the desk here? Is it okay if I just leave these
Yeah,
here?
sure. Leave it there, okay? Take care.
Yeah, go Jays. Hi, Daniel. I'm back. Are you still there? I think so. Did you want me to read any? Okay, hold on a second, okay? Because we're just, I've just let the students go. So, Daniel, let me check your email tomorrow, okay? And I've just been a little backed up. Thanks for reminding me. All right. If you feel comfortable, we can talk about it. But let's leave it with me, okay? And then I'll make sure we address this offline via email, okay? So have a good week. Okay, Rudra area, did you put your full names in for attendance before I sign out here? Just remember, if good, write your full name, area. Okay, so I have it. That's critical because I go through. I have over 200 students, so I need alphabetical. What's your last name, area? Put that in. Thank you. Okay, take care.